Hello, 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 everybody. I'm trying to go live on Instagram too, so we're going to see if this works. Because I don't quite understand how the whole Instagram thing works. I feel so old when I say that. I feel like, oh my gosh, how do I not? And now I'm on my Instagram, but I can't tell whether or not I'm going live, right? Like, do I get a notification that I'm live on Instagram? I have no idea. So if you're watching on Instagram, you need to tell me that you're watching on Instagram because I need to know what happens with this whole live video thing as on Instagram because I don't think it's working. I just really, really don't. Let me hold on. I don't see that there's anybody here at the moment, so I'm going to take a second to try to figure out this whole Instagram thing. Yeah, like I'm on my Instagram account. It doesn't even tell me that I'm live anywhere. So I don't know. I might have to give up the Instagram thing and just do Facebook because, oh, there. It looks like I'm live. I just don't know how it's working. So who knows? We're going to ignore that. So anyway, happy Friday. Happy Friday. I'm actually here at lunchtime today. So that's pretty awesome. I hope everybody is having an amazing week. I hope that your week ended well, right? Like you look back over the week and you go, I got a lot done. My injuries were low. Everything is going golden into the weekend. So pop in the chat and tell me like how was your week and how did everything go for you? And also tell me where you're listening from. That would be awesome. So if you are on Facebook, I do believe you have to like register or something for your name to show up. Otherwise, all I do is see like Facebook user or something like that. Anyway, so happy Friday. Today, we are going to be talking about the question that came in. We're talking about safety training, but the question that came in was how to make safety meetings fun and functional. And I've got a lot of thoughts on this question. A lot of thoughts. Yay, we got a comment. Roblox. Welcome. So thank you. So I have a lot of thoughts on this question. First and foremost, like when we say make safety meetings fun and functional, why do you want your safety meeting to be fun? I understand why it needs to be functional because you need to make sure that they understand the training. I get that. But why are we as a profession always striving to make our meetings fun? Why? I mean, is there any other training out there that we go, oh, yeah, let's make it fun? I remember going to a safety conference many, many years ago, like 15 years ago. And that was like the theme, like every little seminar that you sat through, every presentation you sat through was about making safety meetings fun. And there was one guy with like a guitar and another guy doing magic tricks and all of that. And I'm not against things being fun because like you're in work and you spend a third of your life at work, right? So let's try to make it fun. But we don't always have to make it fun. Functional is definitely important. Engaging is important. Making sure that they understand the training is important. And sometimes when you're mixing that with fun, you're actually hurting people's chances of understanding it because they're just having this great time. So think about that. Like maybe they're not the type of learner that learns via games or learns via music or learns via like playing around and goofing off and magic tricks and all of that. So think about that as well as like why are you trying to make it fun? And instead focus on making your meetings or your trainings engaging. You want them to really be interested in what they're learning and ask questions. That's how you can measure engagement is how much do they participate in the training. If they're just sitting there and you're just looking at a bunch of dead eyes, then they are not engaging in that training. So that is how you want to gauge the engagement of your training. The effectiveness of your training, you would gauge after the fact, right? So you do a training and then after the fact, You then do assessments and observations, and you see whether or not they understood what they were trained on. And if your assessments and observations show that they didn't understand it, then that's not their fault. That's a fault of your training. Okay. So I can go off on the topic as to who should actually be doing the training. And that's actually what we talked about at the BLR webinar on Monday. I'm not sure. I think that that was a paid webinar that, or you had to be part of their program to be in that, but that was the topic of discussion. And that's definitely something that we could talk about as to who should be doing the training. And a lot of people think it's safety, but I do not. I do not think safety should be doing the training. I think that safety should be coaching the coaches who do the training. I think safety should be creating the materials of the training, should be auditing the training, but the training itself should be done by their direct supervisor. So when we talk about making safety meetings fun, now you're adding in that a whole other element of like, well, I have to get the supervisors to make it fun if they're the ones doing the training. Okay, so what I want to talk about today, instead of using the word fun, let's use the word engaging. How can you make your safety training engaging? And there are several ways that you can do this. So, first, let's talk about memory. And when people actually learn something, it's building memories, right? So, it's building that thought process. So you want to make your training memorable. So that way, when they actually go to do that activity, mix those chemicals, reach into that machine, drive that equipment, they remember that training. And the only way that's going to happen is if you build a strong neural network within between the training and the long-term memory. And one way that you can do that is by making your training shocking and memorable. This is one of the reasons why most of us know exactly, at least those of us that are older, know exactly where we were on 9/11 and exactly what we were doing. It was so memorable that all the activities around that morning get seared into your long-term memory. It's also the same reason why most mothers can tell you everything about the days that they have given birth, because it's so painful and such a strong memory of that child being born that they can remember everything throughout that day. They have like a birth story that is constantly playing in their long-term memory to hold it. So what can we do in safety training to make sure that what we're teaching them goes into long-term memory? And in order to do that, you want it to be shocking and surprising and like mind blowing type stuff. So, what makes me think of it is like demonstrations. That's why the dropping like a rock on a watermelon as opposed to dropping a rock on a watermelon wearing a hard hat is so memorable to people who see it the first time. Or when you're doing fall protection training and you actually use the dummy and have them fall with the equipment on, that's memorable. And at the same time, that's engaging, right? So it's like all of a sudden everyone's interested in that demonstration. So I actually have a document. Let me see if I have it in here. Here's the link to it. That gives you like 13 or 14 different ways to make your safety training memorable and exciting and all of those good stuff. There's tons of ideas in there. So make sure that you download it. So that is one way. The other thing I want to talk about is that we as a society, our attention span has changed. And we can blame all the stuff, right? Like technology and kids these days and all of that. It doesn't matter what you blame. It is a fact that our attention span is shorter. In fact, I was having a conversation with my son the other day about movies and how movies now are so long. I think I was rewatching Oppenheimer, which is like a 3-hour movie. He's like, I cannot even sit through a 3-hour movie anymore. And the only reason I got through Oppenheimer was because I broke it up over 3 or 4 days. Right. And I was like, yeah, for me to go to a movie theater and sit there for 3 hours is really difficult for me. Even though I do enjoy the quiet time, but most theaters are not quiet anymore. So anyway, but that's got me on that whole thought of like everybody's attention span is just shorter. And some of our younger people, their attention span is even shorter. you have to realize that they've grown up in this world of like tweets, right? And TikToks, things that are like less than a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So when you're thinking about your training and making it engaging, how can you do it in a short period of time? So what I like to do is take a training, and instead of doing it over 45 minutes or an hour, we do multiple sessions that are shorter. So let's say that we want to train on hazard communication over this past week. How can I break a hazard communication training into 5 bite-sized chunks? How maybe one day we just introduce what a safety data sheet is. Maybe one day we talk about the first aid stuff that's on that data sheet. Maybe one day we talk about, conducting a chemical audit and where the data sheets are located and the labels on another day. Break it up. There's nothing that says you have to do it all at once. And in fact, it's more effective if you break it up. It becomes a way that you do business. And then people are just used to it. Like, this is what we talk about, right? So that is another way that you can make it engaging, is by breaking it up. One of the best ways to make it engaging is you don't teach it and your supervisor doesn't teach it. But when you have an employee that was affected by something in the policy, have them tell their story, have them talk about it. So I had this employee one time whose foot got run over by a forklift because the operator had left the keys in the forklift, and then the forklift rolled forward and ran over his foot. It was at another company, so I didn't know much about it, but I do know that the steel toe saved his foot, and he ended up with like a big scar on the side of his foot, but like he was injured, but he didn't lose anything. So when we're talking about forklift training, one of the trainings is we talk about like not leaving the keys in, removing the keys, and properly parking the forklift and all of those things. And then I have this employee come up and tell his story. It makes it a lot more engaging. So if you have employees that can talk about things that they've experienced, and even if you just broach a subject and then you go around the room and go, does anybody have anything related to this? Because people love to hear information and then repeat it back in their own experiences. So they're always jarring to do that. They're always wanting to like jump in and share their experiences. So give them that opportunity. And you just give them that safe space as you go like round robin around all the employees, going, who has something else that they want to share, and just let them all share. And that makes that training more engaging. And every story, you may then relate it to your policy or your procedure or what you're doing to make sure that story doesn't happen here. That could be one way to make it more engaging. Another idea is that your training does not have to happen in a training room. Your training can happen anywhere at any time. So it could be that maybe you're doing a pre-shift meeting and at the same time you do a little 10-minute safety topic, right? Because they're already preparing for the day. So that would be a great time to do your training. You can also do your training hands-on. So if you're talking about hazard communication, like in our example, then go take them to where you keep either the safety data sheet book, hand out safety data sheets to everybody, have everybody go around the circle and talk about one line in the safety data sheet. Take them to your safety data sheet computer. If you're using an SDS service, take them there, have them search for a safety data sheet, maybe like time, how long it takes them to find the first aid information. I'm always about the first aid information on safety data sheets, by the way, because that is really the only reason why a general employee would be going and looking at that safety data sheet in an emergency, right? It would be either for cleanup spills or for first aid. So those are the two sections that I'm always like, how do you find it quickly? How do you find it quickly? Everything else is interesting and it's good for them to know, especially if they're working in maintenance and they might be mixing chemicals or doing any storage. But I always think about that as like first aid and cleanup. That's what they need to know. So that is another way to make it engaging, is to actually take them into that area and have them do it that way. And what I like to do is round robin. I love to I'm not teaching them anything. I'm like, here's this piece of equipment. Let's go around the room. who can tell me what do we inspect on it and why. And the why is extremely important. And I'm finding out that our younger generation is wanting to know the why. You have to explain the reason behind what you're doing or what could go wrong, right? Or what has happened in the past as to why this rule is in place. So when you are inspecting something, why are you inspecting it? And what is it that you expect to find? Because if they see day in and day out that you're having them do this, I think we talked about this on another live stream, they're going to get complacent. And it's really important that they understand they can't get complacent because at any moment, a bolt could be vibrated loose and we need to know before you operate that equipment. So that way it can be fixed. So I think those are my ideas today for making your safety meetings fun and functional. All of those would be functional. But I think rethink your word fun. It doesn't always have to be a party, especially when safety is a serious topic. So always focus on just making sure that they are paying attention, they're aware, they're engaged in the training. And make sure you're talking to all of the different communication styles as well, because you're in a group of people and you have some people that learn physically, you have other people that learn verbally, you have other people that learn visually. So you have to make sure that you're touching all of those different communication styles to make sure they fully understand and internalize what they're learning. So I think that is where we will stop it for today. As I have said before, I am trying to do these live streams every day. If you have a question or a topic that you want me to cover, email me at bri@thesafetygeek.com. Make sure you include the words AMA or the letters AMA in your subject line. So that way we know that email needs to go to this certain section. So that way we will put it in the queue and we'll see how this goes. So this has been a fun week. This was my 5th live stream this week, and hopefully we will keep it up. I don't know if I'll do the weekends. So I don't know if weekends count. I might just do during the week and then see how it goes from there because weekends are a bit harder for me. So alrighty, that is what I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching the replay or you're on here live, because I do see there are some people on here live, so I appreciate you. But thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.